We are standing in the John and Mary Jane Ritchie house here in Topeka. The John Ritchie home is a home that was built in 1856 by John Ritchie. John Ritchie was an abolitionist who emigrated to Kansas Territory along with Mary Jane, his wife, and their two children in the early part of 1855. John Ritchie and Mary Jane Ritchie came here because of their strong abolitionist feelings and the fact that they wanted to do what they could do to see that Kansas became a free state when it was admitted to the Union. At the time, under the provisions of the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854, which created the territory, residents here in the territory would have to vote and decide whether Kansas would eventually become a free state or a slave state, a state that allowed slavery. And of course, with John and Mary Jane Ritchie, they very much wanted Kansas to become a free state. They came in 1855, as I said, and at first lived in a dugout cabin, which is approximately a quarter of a mile from this location. And after the family was settled into that location, John Ritchie began the building of this two-story brick and stone home. He quarried the stone that was used in building on the home, on the property. The brick and the wood he acquired elsewhere through local sources or sources in the immediate area. It took him about a year to build the house, and after the house was completed, the family abandoned the dugout and then moved into this much more suitable, much more comfortable home. It was after they moved into this house in the latter part of 1856 that John and Mary Jane became involved in what was called the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was a loosely organized system of the time which assisted escaping slaves reach freedom in the North. And in our particular situation here, with Kansas Territory being right next door to Missouri, which was a slave-holding state, slaves escaping from Missouri could travel to the west into Kansas Territory, and when in Kansas Territory, receive help from those people that were involved in the Underground Railroad to travel further on north, typically up into Nebraska Territory, over into Iowa, and then further on north into other free states, and not uncommonly all the way up into Canada. So John and Mary Jane Ritchie again became involved in that operation in 1856. They were involved in the Underground Railroad activities here locally, probably up into 1861, which was the beginning of the Civil War. The question comes up sometimes, how many freedom seekers did the Ritchies assist? And they did not have any answer for that. John Ritchie himself, when asked that question at one point, did not even put a number on it. He put a dollar figure on it. He said about $100,000 in value, which was an interesting term rather than numbers. To put that in some kind of a frame of reference, the cost of a slave at the time could be anywhere from a few $100s. For example, there are records of young children being bought and sold in the neighborhood of $700 and $800, all the way up to $2,000 and more, depending on the skill level of the person involved. So that may give some idea, some indication as to what he was referring to.